But first, breaking news from California, where this footage has just arrived of a communist dictator welcoming Chinese President Xi Jinping to California. No, wait. Sorry, I've got that the whole wrong way around. What you've got there on your screen is California Governor Gavin Newsom welcoming communist dictator Xi Jinping to California for the big APEC meeting this week. Sorry, it's easy to get the two confused. Because, I mean, really, when you look at the welcome Xi was given by San Francisco authorities, well, as local San Franciscan Jenny Chachan, who took this video, noted, the town was looking more like China than China. It's certainly a far cry from the usual state of things in San Francisco, where it is all zombified junkies, homeless derelicts, and criminals making the streets unclean and unsafe for locals. Seriously, why should ordinary taxpayers enjoy well-policed and sanitary streets? Who do they think they are? The supreme leader of the Middle Kingdom? Honestly, here's that same Gavin Newsom we saw before being refreshingly honest and saying, well, pretty much the same thing.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
That's true, and credit to him for being straight with us. Here's more.
Anytime you put on an event, by definition, you know, you have people over your house, you're going to clean up the house. You have 21 world leaders, you got tens of thousands of people coming from all around the globe. What an opportunity to showcase the world's most extraordinary place, San Francisco.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously you clean up the house. I mean, who doesn't have fentanyl addicts passed out on their floor? Or gangs of looters coming in and stealing everything from their pantry every day? But it wasn't just local leaders who were kissing up to Xi Jinping. Far more worryingly, Joe Biden appeared to be too. Here he is welcoming Xi. But keep an eye on Anthony Blinken, who looks ready to catch the president in case he falls off his chair.
Mr. President, it's good to see you again. We've spent many hours together over the last 10 or 12 years, and to host you in the United States is a great honor and a pleasure.
The fact is, Joe Biden has always been a big fan of China. Whether it is because its state-owned companies have helped finance his lavish lifestyle through payoffs to his son's corporations, or because he admires their authoritarian approach to managing society, I don't know. Bit of column A, bit of column B, perhaps. Here's Joe Biden back in 2015.
We want to see China rise, to continue to rise in a responsible way that will benefit you most, China, because you have an important role to play. A rising China can be a significant asset for the region and the world, and selfishly for the United States.
Now remember, that was long after the true nature of the Chinese regime and its goals had revealed itself. And here's Biden in 2019 saying China was nothing to worry about.
I don't know a single solitary one who would not change places with the problems the President of the United States has versus the problems they have. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man.
Come on, man. This love of Joe Biden for the Chinese authoritarian regime goes back more than 20 years.
China is not our enemy.
I believe then, and I'm even more convinced now, that a rising China is an incredibly positive development for not only China, but the United States and the rest of the world. It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. China is a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion.
What are we worried about?
We talk about China as our competitor. We should be helping.
Do you think in retrospect that you were naive about China?
No.
Of course, this means that Americans and everyone in what is still the free world should be worried. Sure, Joe Biden may have acknowledged the fact that Xi is a dictator, but recall he also let a Chinese spy balloon traverse the entire continental United States earlier this year before doing anything to shoot it down. Joe Biden is no Ronald Reagan standing up to the Russians and telling Gorbachev to tear down this wall. Nor is he a Jack Kennedy going to Berlin and declaring his solidarity with the divided city by saying, "Ich bin ein Berliner." No, instead, Joe Biden is a sycophant to Beijing, sucking up while acting like he's talking tough. It's worth contrasting American behavior with its greatest communist rival today versus the ways things were 60 years ago. I want to go back in history here. Back in 1959, then Vice President Richard Nixon and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev had an impromptu exchange over whose system was better and who could provide better for its people, Soviet communism or American capitalism. Here's a bit of Richard Nixon standing up for and diplomatically schooling Khrushchev.
And for people everywhere, there must be a free exchange of ideas. There are some instances where you may be ahead of us. For example, in the development of the thrust of your rockets for the investigation of outer space. There may be some instances, for example, color television, where we're ahead of you. But in order for both of us, to be ahead of us,
in what are they ahead of us? Wrong. We are ahead of you in rockets as well as in this technique. I do not capitulate.
Where do you see the picture?
Now, could you imagine Joe Biden or his Vice President Kamala Harris doing that today? I doubt it. I mean, maybe Harris would brag that the West is ahead in Venn diagrams or school buses or gummies, but that's about as far as she'd go. Because today, America and the American left seems more in the business of talking down America and empowering America's enemies, talking down the American ideal in the process. Who knows why, but especially among Democrats, this is seen as some sort of almost karmic realignment, an atonement for America's century of global dominance. Because it's not just China. Democrats are empowering other enemies of freedom, like Iran. That realignment started under Barack Obama to embolden Tehran at the expense of Tel Aviv, and it finally bore its bloody fruit on October 7 when Iran's client, Hamas, wreaked mayhem in Israel, touching off what is looking like a new regional war. This has again been by design. The Biden administration has, since coming to office, relaxed sanctions on Iran, enabling Iran to generate $80 billion in oil revenue, and given them $6 billion in ransom to hostages from Iran on the anniversary of 9/11, no less. And, of course, Biden also restarted the negotiations to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. This is insanity. And, of course, for their efforts, the U.S. got not only an escalating regional war, but Iranian attacks on American bases in the Middle East, which have barely been repaid in kind. And now, this week, the Biden administration has given Iran access to another $10 billion in funds, ostensibly to pay for electricity, which may be another way of saying for terrorism and destabilization. Now, if you'd thought the world had become a more dangerous place over the past 3 years, you'd be right. Joe Biden and the Democrats have given aid and comfort to the enemies of the U.S., the enemies of freedom, empowered them to create havoc everywhere. And now China is looking to swallow up Taiwan and displace the U.S. as the lead power in the Pacific. And Biden is slapping Xi on the back. While in the Middle East, Joe Biden opens up the bank accounts for the enemies of our friends. Great work, Mr. President. Next November cannot come soon enough. I just hope it's not too late.